Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to thank you all for joining us today, including my board trustees that you see right behind me, President Keisha Thomas, Trustee Valerie Davis, and our Trustee Carol Mills. We're thankful that you're here, and we thank everyone for respecting the need for physical distancing and face coverings. Suffice to say, these are interesting times in every respect of the word. Last night, our team presented a very high-level plan for reopening of schools to our Board of Education. That plan involves opening schools on August 17th for all of those who choose to come back in person full-time, as well as providing parent agency to keep all of those students engaged 100% online learning through an expansion of our eLearn Academy. So again, a binary choice for families to either participate fully digitally, as is the desire of many in this circumstance to keep their kids with them at home, or for the opportunity to come back. Our teams also presented a plan to bring back our co-curricular activities starting on Monday, June 22nd, through a phased-in approach. These plans were created using our responses from parents. Many of you are aware that we pursued a parent survey in which 3 of 4 individuals responding said that they wanted to be back at school with safety practices. And so we're trying to work in accordance with the Fresno County Department of Health, the California Department of Public Health, the California Department of Education, and the Centers for Disease Control in terms of putting mitigation strategies in place. So our plan includes various layers of safety practices, and we acknowledge that each of those practices on its own is a little bit imperfect, but when taken as a whole, we think they provide a solid foundation of protection for our students, for our staff, and for our family members. For example, recommendations for safety include physical distancing of 6 feet, or as close to 6 feet as is feasible in all cases, masks to be worn, in accordance with the new directive that was given by our governor today, that people are going to be wearing masks in public spaces, of which schools would be one, limiting visitor access to our campuses, keeping our students within smaller cohorts to the greatest degree feasible, the ability to conduct robust contact tracing for any suspected or confirmed COVID cases involving students or staff, and the establishment of isolation rooms for any of our students that may present to school with any type of symptoms synonymous with COVID or anything else that they might present with at the nurse's office. Providing staggered lunches and schedules to allow physical distancing, utilizing our outdoor spaces for meals and other activities as great as is feasible in accordance with the weather, trying to leverage every bit of space on our school campuses, increase access to hand washing and hand sanitizer, providing that in all cases for everyone, daily self-administered health screenings for all of our students and staff, conducting our staff meetings virtually when physical distancing might not be possible, the establishment of one-way hallway traffic flows and working with the entire school community so that they know which direction traffic will move, as well as recurring video, in-person training, and reinforcement of all safety practices, including proper hand washing, proper mask wearing, and any of the other protocols that are associated with the COVID-19 health crisis. I just need to publicly acknowledge and thank our team for some really tough work to create a reopening plan, and I know that we have additional work to do to move that high-level plan to one of daily implementation. I just think it's important to know there are no easy options in the current scenario, and there are no options that feature no risks about what school will look like for the upcoming year. Every available option connotes risk. For example, if we take the survey data and assume 75% of our students come back to school in August, 6 feet of physical distancing between desks will not be feasible in every classroom. We will still implement our reopening with as much physical distancing as possible. But we also have to acknowledge and ensure our parents that they understand that the risk of transmission increases as physical distancing decreases. Also, we're absolutely not naive to the fact that our students will have some difficulty wearing cloth face masks for hours at a time. We will do everything we can to support our students with meeting their personal needs while also remaining in accordance with the governor's directive on masks issued earlier today. And we'll be sensitive to those who are physically unable to wear a mask due to health or sensory issues. So it's not a perfect solution, and we will not take away the humanity of kids or faculty members in our space in the efforts to enforce mask wearing, for example. Are we mandating it? We are. Are we not going to give consideration to children? We always do, and will continue to do that. We believe our role as a large urban school district is to help our community feel as normal as it humanly can. We serve a seminal role in the functioning of both our community as well as our society. And we recognize we have to stand in the breach to provide critical services for our students. It's really a mitigation of risk because not having kids in school also creates risks of their own. Many of you are clearly aware critical services include their education, access to learning content, individualized supports. But also through this pandemic, we've learned how other crucial functions schools provide to our kids, including social emotional support, access to meals daily, access to child care, access to primary health care, access to mental health care. Right? And our role in keeping our kids safe as mandated reporters, where we're having regular check-ins with them from a domestic violence and child abuse perspective. All of those are elements that schools provide every day in order to help keep our society as effectually functioning as possible. No plan is perfect, but I am incredibly proud of our team, and I believe we've brought forth the best plan for the safety and well-being of our students, staff, families, and community. As situations change, we will continue to monitor those plans. COVID is shifting. Legislation at the state level, as we found out today, is shifting. Budgetary outcomes are shifting. So we will continue to be present with changing conditions on the ground as they start. But I think it's important to start declaring to our families our intent is to bring kids back safely when we can, or to offer you an option to have them fully taught at home in a robust e-learning academy environment. We obviously have many details to work out, and we will be coming to our community with regular updates on the way. Thanks for those of you that pay attention to everything we're talking about thus far. I think it does make news in the city of Fresno, what's going to happen for our kids in our schools. Implementing a reopening requires an incredible amount of planning, especially in circumstances such as these. And that's why we're not going to wait any longer to bring our community alongside us in this work. We have to begin having collaborative conversations with people and to begin to try to figure out what this is going to look like. We will not just sit idly by wringing our hands. We have to begin discussing what school will look like for the year to come. We'll need to reach out to our families individually and get commitments from them as to whether their student or students will be returning physically to school or choosing to opt into our eLearn Academy so that we can our safety practices with those specific enrollment needs at every unique school. We will be sharing more information on how we intend to reach out to parents in the coming weeks, but I urge all families, please make certain that your contact information, your address, your phone number, your email address are as accurate and up to date in your Atlas Parent Portal as they possibly can be, to ensure that we have the opportunity to regularly communicate for you. And please keep an eye out for communications from our district. I just want to welcome Genoveva Islas is here too, our trustee. Thank you, Beva. To assist in making that decision as a parent, today we've invited the media to take a look at some of the safety practices we are proposing for the upcoming school year. President Thomas talked about it yesterday, like, I need to see the stuff. That's totally reasonable, right? And we want to give full disclosure to our families as to how this might look and feel. So here at Bakeman, we've set up a couple of different classes. And those classes assume every single one of our Bakeman students were to return and nobody were to pursue the option of e-learning academy. So what you're seeing essentially, for lack of a better descriptor, would be a worst case example. If you had exactly the same number of students as you would in a normal school year, what might that look like from a physical distancing perspective? So just to clarify, our surveying indicated 3 of 4 families would be the ones to come back, and a fourth of them would not come back. So in other words, 22,000 of our 74,000 students, if those numbers hold, would opt for a eLearn Academy option. However, we want to show you what it would look like if we brought everybody back so that parents get a sense of how that might look and feel for their kids so that they can make good choices about the agency for themselves, their family, and their children. Again, you can take a look at the signage in our hallways and our cafeteria to visually begin understanding how we intend to reinforce physical distancing, mask wearing, health screening, and all of the various mitigations that we intend to put in place to keep our kids safe. With that, I'd love to open the floor to my fellow trustees joining us to make any additional comments, and then I'll come back and we can take questions from the media. So thank you. President?
Thank you all for being here. And again, we just want to extend our invitation to you all to show you exactly what it looks like for our babies to be back at school. And Bob said worst case scenario. I say best case scenario, that all our babies show up, because they really do need that time with their teachers and they need to be involved and to at least see their peers. I know we will be doing some social distancing or a lot of social distancing, but our kids, they enjoy the socialism of school, right? So with that being said, I'm so happy that we have an example of what that's supposed to look like, and I can't wait to see it, and I can't wait for you all to see it, and I can't wait for our kids to come back into a safe environment. Thank you.
Thanks, President. Madam Trustee?
Okay. I want to thank our principal, Melissa Jones, for opening up Bateman Elementary School and setting up some classrooms so everyone can see them. Just like we have different protocols for when we travel on the air, we will have different protocols for our school. And that's just the way it'll be going forward until we have a vaccine available to our children. But I think this will give you an example and an opportunity to see what we have in place. And it can work, it will work, and we will welcome back our children and our staff and our teachers in the safe way we can. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Trustee Carol Mills, and yes, I'm walking funny because unfortunately I fell off a ladder a few weeks ago. I don't recommend it. There's no perfect answer to how do you open schools in a pandemic, and so I think staff have done their best to craft a solution that will work for most families, and families need to make the decision that is best for them. We have distance learning through the Learn Academy, or we have the ability to have students on site in seat-based learning. And it is an individual decision. We'll be asking families to make that decision, and we will accommodate whichever decision they make. And we're doing the best we can in terms of safety protocols, and certainly in light of Governor Newsom's mask order today, masks will be required. Thank you.
So, testing, 1, 2, 3, okay. Okay. So my name is Beva Islas. I'm the trustee for the McLean region. I did want to say some remarks in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking families. But briefly what I'll say is that as a public health professional, I can certainly understand the concern and the need to practice safety. So that's a core value that we are seeing in what we are showcasing here today, right, is the importance of keeping our children safe. If COVID has taught us anything, it has taught us how interconnected we are and how important it is for all of us to care for each other's health.
So wearing this mask is a public display of love and care that we are showing each other. What I really value about the work that our team has done in setting us up for reopening is flexibility and options. Families have an option if they want to continue with distance learning to do that, and they're going to get a lot of support in order to do that effectively. Families also have the option, those families that really need and want to have their children in a seat will have that as an option, and we're going to do that as safe as possible. So thank you for being here. Mi nombre es Beba Islas, soy parte de la mesa directiva, represento la área de McLean y estoy aquí simplemente para comentar que para nosotros la gran prioridad es en el cuidado de la salud de nuestros hijos, de nuestros estudiantes. Lo que nos ha enseñado la pandemia es qué tan conectados estamos, ¿verdad? Usar estas mascarillas es una manera de prevenir la transmisión del virus, pero también es algo visible que demuestra nuestro amor y cariño para uno y otro en protegernos. Lo que les quiero comentar tocante lo que estamos haciendo aquí es que nos estamos ofreciendo opciones para las familias. Esas familias y padres que no sientan seguros en dejar sus niños presentarse físicamente en la escuela van a seguir teniendo la opción de agarrar educación de distanciamiento, ¿verdad? De larga distancia por tecnología. Y nosotros vamos a proveer todo lo que podemos para apoyarlos en esa decisión. Incluso esas familias que necesitan que sus niños se presenten por razones de su trabajo o por falta de cuidado de niño, lo que les queremos asegurar a ustedes es que estamos haciendo todo lo posible para asegurar que sus hijos están sanos y seguros aquí en la escuela. Les agradezco a todo el equipo que ha trabajado duro para llegar aquí y esperemos que todo salga bien. Pero la otra cosa de la flexibilidad de este proceso es que si llegamos a un punto donde las cosas no están bien, donde no siguen mejor, también podemos volver a cambiar para que más niños entren a la educación por distancia también. Gracias.
I'm going to move the mic and I'll model appropriate practices. All right. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Obviously, these are unique times. Certainly, I've never engaged in a process of having a press conference while wearing a mask. So I think to some degree, we're all getting used to a new normal. And I appreciate the corrective feedback that my president gave me. These are, anytime we have spending with our students is actually the best case scenario. That being said, we want to make sure that they're safe. Right? The best case scenario is bringing back in an attitude and an environment where they can thrive and they can function and they can live as normal a life as we can have them live while we are simultaneously caring for them and their needs from a safety perspective. So anyway, thank you, President. At this time, I'll open the floor to any questions. Obviously, we anticipate there is a lot of questions as we enter this new period in our schooling time. You know, at current, we are still focused on our normal starting school date, which will be August 17th. We are going to give an update in mid-July, which we anticipate pushing out to all parties involved, where we can give a little more specificity. And also, Gilbert, we will be putting out additional information because we want to make sure our parents declare their intentions. We expect a lot of one-to-one connection on that. We're trying to mobilize an entire cadre of people to contact individually every single family to ask them specifically what your intent is. And so anything we can get in terms of support from our media partners to get that out. Additionally, with our staff members, because everybody has a different orientation to this disease and this current scenario. And many of our folks have health concerns which might preclude different options for them. So we want to make sure. So yes, still August, to your question, still August 17th in terms of schools starting. We're not anticipating moving that date, not at current, but we will give another update mid-July. Yes, we're pursuing that right now. The intent is to provide masks for every staff member as well as every, there's two phases of masks. There's multiple sizes. So what we're anticipating right now, what we're hoping to bring to bring to light is to actually have laundered masks available for every single person in our system, 7th grade and above, that they would dispose at the end of the day and get another one. Additionally, but they don't do that service for little kids, so 6th grade and below, providing either disposable masks or maybe 5 masks per family. We're still working out those specifics, but we will be providing those. We are not asking families to have to scramble and make that a reality. That's part of what we will provide. It's weird that that would be school supplies, but that constitutes school supplies in the 2021 school year. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
There are a lot of parents out there or students, and they believe it's all COVID. It's just a conspiracy and all that. No, we don't want to wear the mask. So what's your comment? How you comment on that?
You know, I think the reality is we're going to do everything we can to keep our kids safe. The difficulty with this scenario is any scenario alienates almost everyone, right? Everybody has a difference of opinion. It's really hard to make certain that you have a solution that is universally lauded by the people that are engaging in that. Our obligation is to follow the admonition and directive of our local health department, our governor, the people who are saying these are the things we're going to do to keep California safe. So regardless of anybody's individual orientation to it, we will do and be in accordance with what is being directed by CDC, the governor's office, California Department of Education, our local health department, and be in accordance with those guidelines. Invariably, people will potentially politicize that. That's none of my concern. My concern is try to get kids back to school in the safest way that we can. I'm going to focus and stay in my lane with respect to providing education. I will add, I focus on education as an essential service, right? I think education is as essential as most of the other things that are done in the course of our society. And I think when kids are not in school, that's really hard on a community. So I think recognizing the roles that educators play, recognizing the role comprehensively that school plays in a community, I think is really important. And actually, I think since March 13th, people have been pretty aware of the crucial importance of schools in our community. Exactly right. So there are some folks who we know, either through medical, because of health reasons or due to sensory defensiveness issues, who are not going to be able to wear a mask in the classic sense, right? The intent is not to, inconvenience or jam any of those folks, for lack of a better descriptor. We will try to work in accordance with everybody's specific health directives to provide those levels of support. And same thing, we are going to mandate masks, but I'm not going to immediately move to punish a child with autism who removes their mask in a classroom. I'm not going to take away the humanity of being with children every day, right? Nor am I going to say you don't have to wear a mask, right? For whatever reason, it's hard, like people want to get triangulated in a certain message. I'm saying we're going to stay in compliance with the directive while still treating people as people and providing them the margin that they require in order to function in our space. So we're not currently utilizing temperature taking as one of the levels of safety. We are running through the checklist, which maybe some of you have participated in, where they're asking you about your close contact and engagement with anybody who has been sick. To date, that has not been an advisement of the local health directive. People are taking temperatures, but in children, it's believed only 30% of cases actually are affected, by temperature, and that's usually somebody that's pretty profoundly sick by that time. Actually, us taking the temperatures of 780 healthy kids will restrict our ability to get them into class and actually focus on what we're trying to do, which is educate them every day. So it's not a layer of risk we're actually engaging in at the school level. We are asking our parents to help with that at home, and under no uncertain terms, hear me very clearly, families, if you believe your child is ill, keep them at home. Right? We're not giving awards for perfect attendance in the COVID-19 crisis that you need to work that hustle. We are wanting to make sure our kids are safe, healthy, and not exposing other kids to concern. Because in any situation where our physical distancing is less than 6 feet, if a child is to get ill in one of those scenarios, contact tracing dictates anybody that's within that circle is also ill and quarantined. And we don't say that by way of trying to scare anybody, but we don't want to bring people back to school who do not fully understand what the potential risks would be. Quite honestly, we are all mitigating risks right now. How close you're standing to one another at current, whether or not you chose to wear a mask at this thing, whether you choose to go to Costco after this, or Home Depot, or whatever it is you're choosing to do in your life, we are all constantly mitigating our own risk. Movies, restaurants, you name it, every facet of our life, we are mitigating risk. It's time that we consider risk mitigation at school too, if other aspects of our economy are open in that regard. Yes, Juanita. Yes, ma'am. So we are establishing an isolation room, and we think we actually might need 2 at most of our sites, because invariably we get a couple people that come to the office with fever. Maybe not so much so in this current world where people are hypersensitive, and rightfully so, about the health. Absolutely right. We anticipate that being difficult, right? And trying to figure out how we then provide a staff member who can be with that person but not close enough to them to potentially expose themselves to pathogens. So those are very difficult scenarios, but ideally we will be putting that child in a place where they will be isolated until such time as they can be picked up. People have asked about that. Buses can only hold a finite number of kids. We're working on trying to maximize physical space inside of our buses, but honestly, if there's 9 kids that fit on a bus in terms of 6 feet, I don't intend to leave the 10th kid right here on the corner of Chestnut and Belmont. Like, I'm going to get them on the bus and try to get them to school effectually. We will do everything we can to stay in complete and total accordance with the directives that have been given by the health department, but invariably, if a child stoops to pick up a pencil that's dropped on the ground, there's not an alarm going to go off because they violated the 6-foot circle. So, I mean, the difficulty is maintaining the humanity of people and the dignity of people's personal choices in space, while simultaneously also making good on all the directives to provide a safe environment for kids.
So you mentioned transportation, and that they'd only be able to fit a certain amount of kids because of guidelines. Do we anticipate school hours to remain the same, and do you guys anticipate also needing more staff members because class sizes will be reduced?
At current, we are not modulating the time of classes. What we are asking is families who can transport kids, we would encourage them to do that. Our surveying actually indicated 80% of respondents could provide transportation for and on behalf of their own children, which we think is a good idea, at least in the short run, until some of this moves to a different phase. Additionally, we are adding bus routes to our most congested routes to try and lower the total number of people participating in that. We are, again, encouraging families. In many cases, it might be safer to walk to school even than taking a bus. If you're out, in the fresh air, that might be a value-added proposition. So the key thing is just working with families so that they understand what those risks are. For some of them, taking a bus is the safest means by which they can get to school. Other folks do different things. They'll walk together in what they call like a walking bus, but again, they would have to maintain physical distancing in that scenario as well. At current, we have a health professional at every one of our sites, either a certified nursing, a CNA, or a LVN, or a RN, a school nurse, right? And at nearly all of our 106 sites every day. So we may, in the short run, need to augment our potential health staffing in order to make sure that we get through this period of crisis. Even in the midst of budgetary shortfalls, our board graciously approved a budget 2 weeks ago that included $13.1 million set aside specifically for mitigations around COVID-19, like providing masks, providing hand sanitizer, providing, as we talked about, if we need additional nursing services. We're probably going to have to provide some contracts to make sure that we get every single person contacted, like who are we going to have reach out to everybody, but that has been budgeted due to the wisdom of the 4 people behind me and their colleagues. Juanita. And I'm sorry, I'm going to come. It's really, I will say this is very hard. I have a hearing impairment, so I have a hearing aid, and not being able to read your lips is really hard. So I apologize. So we just started discussing that today, knowing that we're going to need a kind of every able body who is willing to be able to reach out. And what we're trying to do is provide, in the primary language of the families that we serve, a direct human contact to ask them what their intentions are. Our intent is to try and get that resolved by mid-July. So we would need to start it. We have like a 2-week window to try and really drill in. The hard part is identifying every person that would be making those calls is what we're doing right now. Oh. Yeah, sorry. Obviously, we'll kind of... Actually, there's a lot of granular detail. I would invite you to look up. Last night, our board considered an actual plan with very specific information. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nikki. Is that available at FresnoUnified.org? On the board page? Where is it? Okay, so on the backup material for the board agenda for yesterday's June 17th agenda is an actual robust version of the plan, which actually has a lot of granular detail as to what our intentions are, what are the foundational beliefs that we're trying to sustain in terms of getting this work done. The issue, I think, Juanita, to your question, what we're working on now, we're blessed with individual principals like my friend Ms. Jones, who are like working their own school site, because we have 106 schools, and we're blessed to have principals like Ms. Jones who are like leaning forward with their own faculty and staff. And I see some of my Bacom staff right here. So it's not just Principal Jones, it's all of our staff, plant coordinators, office managers, leaders of all types, who are stepping forward and trying to figure out what would be best for that individual site. Because different sites have different amenities. This one's difficult in some ways because it has a first and second story. So Ms. Jones can show you, like, they're going to go up one set of stairs with the last kid wiping the handrail, and they're going to go down another set of stairs with the same protocol. But each of our school sites is actually going to be leveraging their own expertise to make sure that they can physically distance their students in as safe a way as possible. We felt it was really important to give folks an opportunity to visualize what that would mean. I do want to say again, the scenarios you will see today are under the assumption that nobody opted out of participating in class. So you're going to think, man, this is not 6 feet, and that's true. If every child came back, we would not have any opportunity to physically distance at the required distancing. That being said, that's why we're encouraging people to engage in the online eLearn Academy option. Much more robust. It took us a while to get ramped up to that. Since March 13th, the district has distributed over 60,000 devices to the community to make sure that folks have what it is they need. We've established a hotline at 457-3939 5 days a week, 9 hours a day, people in multiple language providing support from an IT perspective to anybody that might call in and have questions. And so we're in a little better place to kind of make that a robust opportunity for folks. All right, we'll wrap up and let folks go inside. Thank you for being here. We sure appreciate it.